Hi, and welcome back to Focal Point on AFR Talk. I want to shift gears a little bit and talk about the whole issue of Islam and just kind of get you up to speed, up to date on what's going on in the Islamic world. We've had all these embassies being closed, 23 of them around the world. At the same time, the president's trying to tell us that Al-Qaeda is on the run. They've been decimated. The core of Al-Qaeda has been broken. And yet, because of Al-Qaeda, they are closing 23 embassies. And remember, they had a huge prison break at Abu Ghraib, 500 Al-Qaeda folks liberated from prison. You've got prison breaks in a couple of other countries. We've closed down our embassy in Pakistan, which wasn't a part of the original embassy closures. Now they've closed the embassy in Pakistan, Lahore, because the intelligence indicates there's a specific threat against that embassy. So once again, just doesn't sound like it's the Al-Qaeda that's on the run whatsoever. Now, interesting deal happening with Richard Dawkins. Richard Dawkins is an atheist. He hates everybody. He hates all religions equally. He hates Christianity. He hates Christians. He despises us, has contempt for us, but he's an equal opportunity critic. And he's been criticizing, or what he's been doing is he's been telling the truth about Islam. And one of the things that he has pointed out, and he's come under international hatred for this, Richard Dawkins has pointed out, President Obama keeps talking about the contributions that Islam has made to America. He never identifies what they are, never spells out a single one. You got to go back to algebra to find a contribution that Islam has made to society. That's thousands. That's 1,000 years ago when algebra was invented, and you can give some partial credit to a Muslim for that. And alchemy, Middle Ages, Dark Ages, those are the two contributions that can be identified that Islam has made to civilization. And Richard Dawkins simply pointing this out, and he pointed out that in all of human history, Muslims have won 10 Nobel Prizes, and I think 5 of those were peace prizes. I mean, Arafat got one of those criminally. How does he get a peace prize? I mean, that's a meaningless award. And when President Obama got it and hadn't done anything, that obviously means the peace prize is virtually meaningless now as a prize. But only 10 Nobel prizes in history have been awarded to Muslims. And he pointed out you can go to Trinity College in the UK, one college alone, its professors or its alums have won 32 Nobel Prizes. 32. One college, Trinity College, and notice the name of the college, by the way, Trinity College. Who would that be named for? Well, that would be the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit. Trinity College, formed in honor of the Christian Trinity, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. 32 Nobel Prizes for this one college alone in the UK. 3 times as many Nobel prize winners as Islam has ever accrued, as Muslims in total have ever accrued. And now naturally he has come under the hatred of the entire Islamic world. So that's what happens when you tell the truth about Islam. Now, speaking of someone who tells the truth about Islam, our next guest, Erick Stakelbeck, is the author of a brand new book entitled The Brotherhood, and the subtitle is America's Next Great Enemy by Erick Stakelbeck. He is the author of a best-selling book, The Terrorist Next Door, and he's the host of the regular program Stakelbeck on Terror, which airs on CBN News. He's a widely sought-after expert on terrorism. You've probably seen him frequently on Fox News, the Blaze TV, where he occasionally fills in. I think even did the day for Glenn Beck. He's been on CNN, so widely respected as a expert on terrorism. He's now our guest on our Decision Maker line. Erick, welcome to Focal Point with Brian Fisher.
Brian, great to be with you. Thanks for having me.
Yep, you bet. And your book, the latest book, is on the Muslim Brotherhood, which you have identified as America's next great enemy. So talk just for a moment about why the Muslim Brotherhood is an enemy of the United States, and maybe bring us up to date about what the Muslim Brotherhood, as an example, is doing to Christians in Egypt.
Brian, well, look, every American needs to know about this group. And really, this is the reason I wrote the new book, The Brotherhood, because the Muslim Brotherhood is the granddaddy of them all when it comes to Islamic terrorist groups. They spawned Al-Qaeda. They created Hamas. And, Brian, I make the point in the book, it might shock some people, but without the creation of the Muslim Brotherhood in 1928 in Egypt, there would have been no 9/11. I say that without hesitation. Everyone behind that attack, from Osama bin Laden to Khalid Sheikh Mohammed to the hijackers, before they created Al-Qaeda, they belonged to the Muslim Brotherhood. The Brotherhood is really the gateway drug to Islamic terrorism. And what they are doing right now, Brian, in Egypt and in other Middle Eastern countries to Christians lines up perfectly with their ideology. This is a viciously anti-Christian, anti-Semitic group. And right now in Egypt in particular, the Brotherhood is literally killing Christians. Just this week, the black flag of Al-Qaeda, the Brotherhood's friends, was raised above a church in Egypt. Right now, Christians in the Middle East are on the run, and a big part of the reason why is the Muslim Brotherhood.
You know, and I'm looking at a story here posted by Robert Spencer on his website, Jihad Watch, about the Muslim Brotherhood claiming that its protests in Egypt are peaceful, but there's mounting evidence now that they are committing torture, that they are armed. They have committed what some human rights groups describe as torture against their political opponents. They're blaming Christians, I think, Eric, am I right, for the deposing of Morsi, blaming Coptic Christians and therefore attacking them. You've got Christians being beaten. They're being fired on by Morsi supporters. Amnesty International reporting that anti-Morsi protesters are being captured, beaten, subjected to electric shocks, or stabbed. 10 citizens have filed torture complaints at local police stations, and the violence has even claimed lives. The morgue reporting 5 bodies bearing the marks of torture found near both camps. So Muslim Brotherhood in Egypt responsible for torture and worse.
They are. Look, the Muslim Brotherhood right now, Brian, they're using Christians, Coptic Christians in Egypt, as the scapegoat for Mohammed Morsi's ouster. Look, people need to remember that Egypt, the Coptic Christian community there, is one of the oldest Christian communities in the world. According to history, the historical record, Brian, the Apostle Mark actually was there and helped found the Christian church in Egypt. So the Coptic community there makes up some 10% of Egypt's population, but right now it is unraveling for them. I speak to Copts in Egypt. They're fleeing Egypt because the Brotherhood is on literally the warpath against Christianity there. As you said, torture. There have been rape rooms in Egypt. Now, this was happening in particular under Mohammed Morsi, who mercifully is gone after 1 year. But the Brotherhood now is scapegoating Christians and blaming them for Morsi being out the door. So it was bad under Mubarak for Christians in Egypt. It got horrible under Morsi. And believe it or not, even though Morsi's gone now, it's even worse because the Brotherhood, their Islamist, jihadist allies in Egypt, will not go quietly. It's basically a jihad now against the Egyptian military, against Egyptian Christians, and, of course, against Israel.
And let's shift our attention, Eric, if we can, talking here with Erick Stakelbeck, author of the brand new book, The Brotherhood, America's Next Great Enemy, talking about the Muslim Brotherhood. And, of course, we know from the 1991 memo that the goal of the Muslim Brotherhood in North America is to exterminate and destroy Western civilization, to sabotage our miserable house from within. I mean, they've said it. That's what they're about. They want to eliminate us. They want to destroy us. There's no secret about it. They're the ones that have spawned the Muslim student associations on campus after campus, the CARE, the Council on American Islamic Relations, the Islamic Society of North America. Virtually every major Muslim institution in North America is the spawn, the offspring of the Muslim Brotherhood. So tell me, Eric, I want to ask you some specific questions in the next couple of minutes. What risk are we running by our lax immigration policies with regard to Muslim Brotherhood Muslims? What risk does that pose to the United States?
Well, look, Brian, you quote the Muslim Brotherhood's own strategic documents, which, by the way, our government has in its possession. We have their strategic plans to dominate America and to chip away at this country from within. And in those strategic plans, demographics, immigration is a common theme. It's one of the Brotherhood's tactics in hitting the West, hurting the West from within. The Brotherhood leaders say, look, we're not going to conquer the West through guns and bombs. We will do it through proselytizing and through immigration. demographic jihad. And if you look right now, number one, we have obviously porous borders in this country, but Brotherhood acolytes and Muslim Brotherhood operatives are entering this country legally. Look at the immigration numbers, Brian. Since the year 2000, the number of Muslims in the U.S. has tripled. Now, not every Muslim is a terrorist, not every Muslim is a jihadist, but there is a significant radical presence that is coming in. And another strategy for the Brotherhood is mosque building. The number of mosques since the year 2000 has doubled in America. Again, not every mosque is a radical mosque, but if you look at the Muslim Brotherhood's ideology and their game plan, they clearly say, Brian, in those strategic documents that you referenced, number one, immigration is one of our tactics, and number two, mosque building. So we have an issue here.
One last question, Eric. We got about 60 seconds left, but we've got this Fort Hood shooter now, Major Hassan, admitting he's a soldier of Allah. He did this for Allah. He did this in the name of Allah. Allahu Akbar. Let me ask you this in the last 45 seconds. What risk are we running by allowing Muslims to serve in the United States military?
Well, look, there's more and more cases of people like Major Hassan who are and we see it not only here, but in Afghanistan, where we have jihadist plants who are killing our troops. Look, it's a big risk. It's a slippery slope because Muslims in this country obviously have full rights and they want to join the military in some cases, but I think they absolutely need to be vetted, Brian, in a serious way because we are up against an Islamist foe. It's a tough thing, but I think there has to be some vetting right now. Nidal Hassan, a guy like him, should have never been able to slip through the cracks.
Our guest has been Erick Stakelbeck, author of the brand new book, Brotherhood of Deceit, How the Muslim Brotherhood is Scheming to Infiltrate the U.S. and Europe. A very, very important book. I highly encourage you to get a copy of this. Thank you, Eric, for being with us. He appears regularly on CBN as Stakelbeck on Terror segment. Thank you, Eric, for being with us, and God bless you for the work you do.
Thanks again, Brian. God bless. Anytime.
Focal Point, AFR Talk. We'll be right back with more of your calls, 888-589-8840. Stay with us.